Welcome! I am Ignacio Fernandez Llorente, professional polo umpire. In this video series, I will explain the rules of polo as presented by the Hurling and Polo Association, usually called the HPA. In each of these videos, I offer a good amount of selected examples of actual fouls to those rules on the field. With these examples, you can learn the equivalent of more than 20 years of polo. So I recommend you watch them carefully, as I believe they show many interesting details that will positively improve your game. In this video, we shall see different ways to determine who has a priority or preference to play and who does not, committing a foul if invading a play. It is technically called the right of way or row, and it's described in Article 33 of the HPA rules. So, as there are different ways to determine who has a row and who doesn't, let's start first by looking at the position of players and what happens when paths intersect as crossings.
33. Crossing. No player may cross or turn left or right across the row of an opposing player who is committed on the row except at such a speed or distance that no risk of a collision or danger to either player is involved. A player crossing behind a player on the row will foul if he crosses another player following on the row.
If a player crosses the way or turns either right or left on another player carrying the ball, he will be committing a foul, unless there is enough distance and the play has a speed that does not represent danger to any of the parts involved. It is also a foul if this player would do the same on a third player following the one that carries the ball. Let's see some examples. Here the player in red turns left in front of the one in black and commits a foul. This is commonly called a turn. Here as well, a player in white turns in front of the one in orange and it's fouled by white. A player in black swerves in front of a white player and commits a foul too. Again, in this turn, always a foul, regardless if it is done to the right or to the left. A player in orange turns to the right and fouls. Here, a player in blue is leading, he hits the ball, and when another player in white turns to the right, he commits a foul. So what happens when a player is away from others, or at least there's a safe distance between him and the rest? As we see here, no one is near, so the player can turn freely and there is no fouling. On this other case, it's the same. There's enough distance to turn and the player does not commit a foul. Here, we see white at speed. He turns, yes, but at speed. He turns at speed and moving forward. This is important, so it's not a foul. Let's see what we call a crossing. Yellow player crosses. Here, white crosses in front of the player in red. That's a foul. Here, yellow carries the ball and the player in white crosses a third player in yellow coming from behind. It's fouled by white. The white player crosses in front of a player in black. A player in red crosses, commits a foul. So let's consider this. Even while the player in green is sitting on his near side, he crosses in front of a player in red, so he fouls.
33b. Blocking. No player may block the progress of an opponent established on the row.
It is also a foul when a player blocks the progress of another player moving forward in possession of the ball. There must be a distance of at least 2 horses, and as we have seen on the ride-off video of this series, the only way the defending player has to obtain the row is to ride his opponent side by side, saddle with saddle. So far, we have seen that the player who has a row has the right to move freely and no player can get in his way unless there is a distance of 2 horses. You can get to the side, but not ahead. In these 2 cases, fouls are committed. You have to let him play along. Nobody can interfere on the path of player carrying the ball unless there's a distance, a safe distance of 2 horses. So here the player in green commits a foul. Now a white player gets in the way, he also fouls. Here a blue player is charging, but he gets blocked by a white. It's fouled by white. Now, blue has the row and a red player interferes. It's fouled by red. There is no other way to displace a player from the row but saddle to saddle, as we said before. So this is fouled by white. And so it is here, where blue hits and another blue player crosses his line in danger. Here, a player in red blocks a blue one, foul by red.
33C. Meeting. When two players are riding from opposite directions to hit the ball, they must play that ball on their offside.
When two players are going to meet the ball, it is mandatory that both play on their offside. We'll see some examples to understand this. If the defending player does not physically threaten his opponent, this is alright. Both are playing on their offside. A similar case here, two players riding along on their offsides, no foul. Here the line goes from center field towards the boards. Disregard the row. Both players need to play on their offsides. Here the player goes on his near side, committing a foul. You will always play your offside when another player is coming to a meeting, regardless of the lob or the row, so it is a foul by white when trying a near side shot. Here the player in red has a better line, but fouls when playing on his near side. Here the player in black seeks to shoot on the near side and the other player goes to meet him. It's fouled by black. Same thing here, foul by white. A player in green hits the ball, blue comes to meet him, there's no foul. Play continues. Now both players are swinging offside. That is good.
33D. Players on the exact lob. Two opposing players riding on the exact lob and simultaneously making a play on each other, whether they are following or meeting the ball, have the row over a single player coming from any direction.
The highest preference on the field is for two players riding each other along the line of the ball. There are no exceptions to this, and then you have the priority row. Here, the white is on an exact lob, but taken by a player in red. It's a hard edge. It's fouled by red. The row is with these two players riding each other off. A white player travels parallel to the boards, and another player in red comes to meet him. It's foul by red.
33E. Players on the exact lob. A player on the exact lob, either following or meeting the ball on his offside, has a row over all other players except as in 33C above.
The second choice belongs to any player who is in the exact line of the ball, either in the same direction or the opposite, always playing on the offside. And when we say exact sense, it is exactly the same line. Players in an exact line of the ball play on their offsides. This is the second most important priority for determining the row. Let's look at another example. On the exact line. It's a very important priority, and always hitting on the offside. Let us remember this: exact line, swinging, offside. This example is great. White goes in the exact line of the ball, but hitting on the near side. See where is the ball. Across comes a player in green at a 90-degree angle, but as he comes on the near side, he does not have the row.
33F. Players on the exact lob. Two players riding in opposite directions on the exact lob have an equal row provided that both take the ball on their offside.
And just to be clear, the rule tells us that they have the equal priority being on the exact lob, coming in the same sense of the ball or opposite, but I insist, a player must play on the offside. We see two players on the exact line of the ball. Both have equal priority. Going one way or the other, same priority. Then no one can cross ahead. It's foul by yellow. And no one can turn ahead. It's foul by red. And always remember the playing offside. If an opponent has the exact line but hits on his near side, it's a foul. The same here, the row is also with the second player. As in this case, the second player in black has a priority over the yellow player entering diagonally.
33G. Players at an angle to the lob. When two or more players ride in the same direction, the player who has the row is the one who is at the least angle to the lob provided that he does not contravene Rule 32B. 2. If he plays the ball on his near side. If the players are at equal angles, the player that has the lob on his offside has the row. Any player or players riding in the same direction that the ball is traveling or has traveled has a row over any player or players approaching from the opposite direction unless the latter are on the exact line as in 33C and 33D.
Let's see what happens when no one is on the exact line of the ball, meaning all players carry a certain angle. In this situation, the following priorities are set. The first priority is for those following the ball on its same sense over those coming to meet on the opposite side. We are talking about players with angle. Within those following the ball, the priority will be for the one carrying the smallest angle, and if two or more still have a similar angle, priority will be for the one coming on the left side of the line of the ball, meaning he or she can play an offside shot. Angles should always be carefully observed both by umpires and players. Angles will not be considered when players come from opposite directions, only when they carry the same trajectory as the ball. This is very important and brings a lot of confusion. In this play, all players carry the same sense, so you will measure which has the smallest angle to the line of the ball. In this other play, both players carry the same direction. We measure their angles, we see who has the smallest angle, and then the priority and row. Here, the same thing, two players traveling in the same direction. We measure the angle to see who has the row. Same here, on the same direction, we measure angles and determine who has the row. A similar case here, same direction, same angle, so priority goes for the one to the left. In this case, a player in red. And we see another example in which when both have a similar angle, priority is to him with the ball on his offside. Here, a red player. It's fouled by light blue. And let's see this example here. A player in red seeks to measure angles with a player in green. No, because you can only measure angles if you're going on the same sense, and priority is on the sense of the ball. Same here, no measuring angles, priority is with the orange player. Here, same thing, we do not measure angles, as the light blue player is riding on the sense of the row, from left to right on your screen. We insist with this, because it generally causes confusion. The player in black is going one way, the player in red to the other, no measuring angles. He who follows the path of the ball has priority. The player in red must be on the exact line of the ball to claim priority, and he is not, so priority and row go to the player in black.
33H. Losing the row. A player in possession of the ball may check to avoid what would have been a legitimate ride-off, but if an opponent is then able to enter the row safely with the ball ahead of him, the player following cannot ride into that player from behind and only has a play on his near side.
In these cases, a player can enter the play upon seeing that the one with the ball stops to avoid a ride-off, given that he comes in appropriate speed and distance. This is very important, and the player who stops can only enter again by hitting on his near side. It is the hardest thing in polo, since you cannot measure the distance and speed. When there is enough distance and when not, and when is the speed right and when it is not. Consider this example that explains it. Red player taps the ball. White tries to ride him off. Red stops. White goes to the ball on his offside and hits a backhand. Even if Red catches up, he can only step in on his near side because he lost the row. White leans, but Blue prevents a ride off by checking. Now White can play by the ball. Blue loses his row when stopping, allowing White to step in. Remember, Blue could only play on his near side. In this case, Black player leans in. White gives way and allows him to take the row and shoot on his offside. Here, the player in red stops for a player in green. This one plays offside. red loses the row. Here, a player in blue has a row, but stops when he sees a white player come to a write-off. Blue loses his row.
I. Losing the row. If a player hits the ball past the offside stirrup of an opponent who is on the lob and traveling at the same speed, the opponent has the right to play that ball on his offside. The player who hit the ball, or a player following, cannot ride into the opponent from behind and only has a nearside play.
And if a player is riding parallel to the ball and it travels forward beyond his stirrup, he can take it. The previous player cannot run over him and can only try to play on his near side. Here, the white player is about to shoot, while blue waits for him, as we see on the yellow line. And as the ball bounces and goes beyond his stirrup, he can play from his offside. White loses the row. Here a blue player shoots and the ball goes beyond the green stirrup. He can now take it. Here a red player shoots. The ball goes parallel and beyond a white player's horse. He can continue the play now. Red loses the row.
33J. Losing the row. The player with the row is entitled to play that ball on his offside. If a player switches to play that ball on his near side, he loses the row and has fouled if he endangers another player or causes another player to check or pull away.
If a player is playing on his offside and suddenly switches to the near side, causing a dangerous situation, he fouls. The player in red carries the ball and instead of playing again on his offside decides to switch. He loses the row and fouls. Here, player in red with row leads the ball. When approached by a defending black player, he decides to hit on his near side, creating a dangerous situation. He fouls. Black carries the ball, and white comes to meet him. He changes sides. He commits a foul.
33K. Losing the row. A player may lose the row if, having hit the ball, he deviates from the exact lob.
It is very clear here that once the player hit the ball, he changes sides. It's a foul. Here a player in green hits it to the right while turning openly to the right. He moves away from the line of the ball. When he returns, he commits a foul because he has lost the row. Here, a player in red loses a row when moving away from the lob. Here, a player in red hits a next shot, runs off the screen, leaves the line of the ball. When he returns, he has lost the row. Player in red hits and deviates. He lost the row. Player in green could have played that ball. Here, a player in yellow hits below the horse's belly, then deviates from the line and he loses a row. Row now is with the player in black, who is following the line of the ball.
33L. Change of row. If the player in possession changes the line suddenly towards an opposing player, that player must clear the new row immediately without making a play on the ball. In this case, it is not a play if a pony kicks the ball.
If a player in possession of the ball hits it towards an opponent, his opponent can disappear. Then he has the right to exit, as long as opponents do not use this situation to get the ball. This means that not him nor his teammates can use the situation to their advantage, and if the ball hits the horse, there will be no foul. Here white leads the ball. The red player steps in to meet him. There's an unexpected change in the line. The red player now has the right to exit, without fouling. Here, the light blue player unexpectedly changes direction to the left. The player in red cannot make himself disappear. He gets the right to exit, without foul. Here, the player in black hits to the right and has to wait for the white to come out. Right to exit, no foul. Here, white hits in. The player in black has the right to exit, and he bounces off the horse. He can continue playing. The tricolor player takes the ball and then changes direction unexpectedly, so white has a right to exit, without foul, even if it was in front of the goal. Here, the player in black switches unexpectedly to the right, not a foul by white. Here, the player in green carries the ball and has to allow white to exit, while the other white player cannot use this occasion for an attack, so he waits.
33M. Change of row. If the lob and hence the row changes unexpectedly, the players on the original row have a right to continue for a short distance, but they may not make a play if another player is established on the new line.
If the line changes unexpectedly, the players with the row can continue on it because they cannot banish. They have the right to exit the play, provided they do not touch the ball. This applies whenever another player has taken or is set to take the new line. The light blue player is allowed to hook. He hooks, then hits, and starts a new line. The player in green coming from behind has the right to follow, but as another light blue player crosses him, there's a foul by light blue. Since green would not have the right to play the ball, he should have waited for him to pass before attempting to shoot. Here, the player in black has to wait for the white to exit, and then continues playing. The player in red has to wait for a light blue to exit and then continues his play. Look at this move. Red waits for white to leave, perfect, but when he wants to return to the play, he no longer has the row and fouls the other white player. Here, orange is waiting for white to exit, and another white player takes advantage of the situation and hooks him. He cannot do that. It's fouled by white. I insist, the right to exit implies no one will take advantage of the situation. A player in black carries the ball, a player in green takes it away, a new line is created. The second black player has the right to exit, but he plays the ball, committing a foul. Had he not played the ball, there'd be no foul.
33M. Change of row. The row is deemed not to change if the ball deviates unexpectedly for a short distance only, and the player with the original row can still play that ball on his offside without changing direction.
And if the ball is unexpectedly diverted for a short distance, but the player with the row can continue to play it in the same direction, there's no change of row. Here are 2 rebounds, and the same row continues. And here is another rebound, and the same row continues.
33O. Stopping or slowing down on the ball. 1 tap rule. The player with the ball who chooses to stop or slow down to walking speed once he has been challenged but is neither being blocked or ridden off may then tap the ball only once in any direction, after which he must immediately leave it, accelerate with it, or hit it away. Should he leave it for another member of his team to take, that player, whether challenged or not, must immediately run with it or hit it away without the option of attack. The opponent is considered to be challenging if he is within 2 horses' length on either the offside or the near side of the player with the ball. A penalty 5 will be awarded for breach of this rule, subject to Rule 40 if a defender is in breach within his own 60-yard line. An upgrade may be given for consistent abuse. A player who chooses to tap the ball under the pony of a challenging player will foul if he rides into the challenging player other than by a legitimate ride-off.
The rule of walking applies when a player with the ball does not have an opponent less than 2 horses away in front of him and is not being blocked, and he stops or walks. He can only tap once. The second has to be a hit, or he has to start off at speed. If he decides to leave the ball to a teammate, the latter has to hit it or also start carrying it at speed. Walking will be punished by at least a penalty number 5. We count taps when 2 situations concur: that there is an opposing player closer than 2 horses distance from the player leading, and that the latter stops or slows to a walk. Then we start counting taps. In this example, there is a player 2 horses away, but the player in green goes at a canter. Taps are not counted. Here, we see that there is no 2 horses distance. but as soon as there is, you start counting. White player makes a tap and then hits. It's okay. When yellow reaches the 2-horse distance, you start counting. He taps and starts at speed. Okay. Player stops and a white opponent marks him. Count. Yellow makes a tap and then hits. Okay. Here comes a player in red towards white. We start counting. A tap and a hit. It's okay. Here we count a tap, and the player leaves it for a second one to hit. That's alright. Let's count. 1 tap. 2 taps. Walking foul. Remember that this rule does not exist in the Argentine regulation. Let's say display in which a player throws the ball to the legs of a horse. The player in green is forced to wait for white to exit, and if he charges, he fouls. Okay, thank you very much for watching. I hope you found it interesting. See you in the next video of our series, and why not, on the polo field.